GMC Sierra tweet of the night comes from Pitt volleyball. They announced today they extend Dan Fisher through the year 2030. He has really made this an elite volleyball program. 6 ACC championships. They've been to Final Fours 4 straight years. They haven't been able to crack through yet. I thought this could be their year, but they will in time because he's put together quite a program there, and people want to come and play here at the University of Pittsburgh. All right, Chris, real quick, tomorrow night, Ohio State, Penn State. Penn State is an underdog. How do you see it playing out?
Freudian slip there, Bob. You previewing the national championship game? Notre Dame, Penn State tomorrow night. You said Ohio State, Penn State.
Sorry, I meant Notre Dame, but yeah, I do think Ohio State and Penn State will meet for the national championship. If it was a slip, it was it was accidental, but it's what I feel.
I think it'll be Ohio State and Notre Dame because I think of all, you know what this reminds me of a little bit is like Penn State trying to beat a Jim Harbaugh Michigan team, which, listen, I know that they're capable of doing that. I know that they don't mind playing like a slugfest game, but that's kind of how Notre Dame is styled right now. They don't really throw the ball all that well. They're all about the run. Riley Leonard, very gifted as far as when he's got the ball and he's running with it, less so as a passer. I just like kind of the way that that team for Marcus Freeman has gone about their business. I think Penn State probably has the greater number of offensive playmakers. In fact, I'd say that's the definite case. But the way Notre Dame attacks on defense, the way they pretty much suffocated Georgia in that game was pretty eye-opening. I know Georgia had their backup quarterback in. I think if you're like the old-school football lover who loves a game that might be exciting and extremely hard-hitting but played in the teens, I think you might get your wish here. This feels like a race to 20, and I think Notre Dame is going to win it, but I think it's going to be an extremely competitive football game.
412-575-2600. Our first caller tonight is Alan in Murraysville. He wants to talk about just that. Number one Cochran, Go One Better caller of the night. Hey, Alan, what's up?
Hey, Bob, how you doing?
Good. What's up?
Hey, Chris, how you doing? Hey, look, I went to Penn State, and I called you before, and I told you my 4 kids went to Penn State. So you know we're real big Penn State supporters. It's going to be a tough game tomorrow night, no doubt about it. I don't know who's going to win. It's anybody's guess. You know, you need a crystal ball. But I just wanted to know if Chris would like to let us all know tonight why he's so anti-Penn State all the time, especially since he's a graduate of Penn State.
Because I never rooted for the program growing up, and I didn't pick my college based on whether or not I would like the football team. I loved Tommy Frazier in Nebraska running the down-the-line option. How many times must I say this? My goodness. Bob, does it not at least somewhat surprise you that people cannot believe that a sports guy like me wouldn't pick his college based on the sports teams? Come on. What are we doing here,
listen,
people?
You went there. I think you had a good time when you were there. Am I right?
I did. I had a wonderful time.
Well, then.
Mainly partying.
Okay. You went to games? You enjoyed
I did,
that
but I was
experience?
off. Honestly, after my freshman year, I was usually there in some sort of a working capacity because I was working for the student radio station. So you treat it more like a job. And because I also now identify more with Pitt and Pitt's struggles, I root for the lovable loser, Bob. Come on.
All right. Let's go back to the lines. We have Rick in Chippewa who's on right now. Hey, Rick, how you doing?
Hey, we're doing well. You two guys do a great job, too. And if Russ doesn't get this team moving early, go to Fields early, key on Henry and blitz, and it's time to change the plays. Go to razzle-dazzle, double reverse, hook and ladder, flea flicker, the whole ball of wax. We're up against the wall. That's
well, I mean, you think they got the annexation of Puerto Rico in the playbook? You think they might have Statue of Liberty there? I don't know what else we've got. The hidden ball trick, perhaps. Can they? You know what? If Mike Tomlin was going to go with trickeration, he'd probably reinvent the wing T for this game, Bob. I don't know about you. I put a lot of what happened specifically in that Bengals game on the head coach offensively. He talked about wanting to play the game to a certain personality. I think that was borderline malpractice. Russell Wilson's best game of the year passing the football by far was against Cincinnati. Mike Tomlin just kind of gave them an easier time out of it. A horrible defense, didn't really have to defend the pass until the fourth quarter, and then, surprise, surprise, they weren't very good at it. And yet the Steelers let them off the hook almost by their own wish or by their own kind of game planning for 45 minutes of that game. I don't get it. Running all but one time on first down.
I agree
that
too.
That just reeks of Mike.
And first down has not had a lot of success this year. In fact, they're dead last in the NFL on first down yardage. To me, you got to come out, and I'm not going to go into all of what he just went into, all that razzle-dazzle, but I would say I would change the way I do business, and I would, when they're at their best, and when I've seen them at their best with Russell Wilson, is when they come out and fire the ball around. I would go up-tempo, spread the field, and start something completely different just to see where it took me, because I know where the other stuff is going to take me, and if they do that, it's like running into a wall. And if you fall behind, now you're in a situation where you're going to play into the hands of the Ravens.
But he's afraid of. Sure, but he's afraid of turnovers. Don't you agree? I mean, he's cited turnovers.
You can't be afraid of it. You cannot win a football game based on how many turnovers you make. Some days there are 0 and 0. If there are 0 and 0, then you just got to outplay the team. You can't rely on turnovers. Sure, you'd like them.
But that's the problem. That's the problem. I think he does rely on turnovers, and anybody that studies football will tell you that they are pretty they're definitely volatile season to season, and they're even volatile game to game. And I hate to go back to his famous quote that often gets used against him, but I think he lives in his fears when it comes to Russ and turnovers and the offense, and I think Mike is much more comfortable trying to mitigate risk and just praying that his defense is going to keep things close, and I think that's just the wrong approach, and I think his team is starting to get frustrated about it. Ray Fittipaldo wrote that in a mailbag, that he thinks that there is some frustration building with the game plans, and that might be on both sides of the ball. And I don't blame the players, especially on offense, if they are ticked off by this conservatism.
Yeah, and what you're doing is you want to invite a close game. You want to make it kind of ugly. But if you do that, there's no guarantee you're going to win that, because you yourself can make a mistake. I would rather go down with my best opportunity, and you brought this quarterback in because he is a guy who can go down the field. He's had success in postseason games in doing it, so let's do it. You have George Pickens back. He was good against them. The last year he had a big game. He didn't play in that last game, so we'll see. There's been some calling him out, even though I think we had that today. Joe and I said that was completely taken out of context. Did you hear that George Pickens and the cologne stuff? Like, it was not intended.
I heard somebody say soft like George Pickens or whatever it sounded like.
There were two different conversations going on. And it was not about George Pickens. It was about something else. I don't know. That's why social media sometimes.
I don't think the Ravens are unhappy that it got out there, though, and that was the perception, because they know that the guy gets very emotional, and that's probably his biggest issue so far for this team, is that they spend as much time on the sidelines trying to keep him focused when he gets frustrated as they do trying to get him the football on the field. And he is coming off, no two ways about it, a wretched performance in that game. He dropped passes. I mean, I think even he understands that he didn't pull his weight. I thought Russ missed him on that out and up late in the game on the final drive, but other than that, there were plays to be made by George Pickens, and he did not make any of them.
No, he didn't. Let's go to David in Findlayville. Hello, David. How are you?
Well, I want viewers and Chris 3 keys to beating the Ravens this Saturday. I'll hang up and listen to you.
All right, Chris, I'll go first. Number one, you got to pass the football down the field. You've got to create situations for guys like George Pickens and Pat Freiermuth. To me, they're your strengths of your passing offense. Number two, you've got to limit and contain Lamar Jackson. If Derrick Henry's going to run, so be it. You got to deal with him, but you can't allow Lamar Jackson to beat you with his legs. And number three, what would be number three? Give me a number three, Chris, at the top of my head.
Boswell better than Tucker.
Well, I tell you what, though, Tucker's got it together in the last several games. So, kickers go through this.
My three, number one would actually be, and you can't sell out to do this, but you have to stop Derrick Henry. Whatever your schematic thing is that you want to try to do to change it up without completely selling out and making Jackson's life easy, you've got to do that. I know you said that you'd rather, hey, if Derrick Henry's going to get his yards, so be it. I just think when they get rolling with him rolling downhill, teams try to gear up to stop it, and that's where Jackson can really hurt you badly. So I think force it to be a Lamar Jackson game. Dangerous game to play when it's the two-time MVP, possible repeat MVP this year. But that's what I would do, one. Two, they have to I don't really see a path without a huge George Pickens game where they win this one. So he's got to have like a game almost akin to what he did against the Bengals the second time around last year, where he almost had 200 yards. He had the 2 huge touchdowns. Like, he's got to take the lid off that defense. And then how about this one for number 3? I think you'll like this one. It's a little inside football. They got to beware Marlon Humphrey because that guy has a penchant for punching the ball out. That guy has a penchant for being like the last line of defense and making big splashy plays. In years past, we saw him punch the ball out of Juju's arms and basically give the Ravens a win when it looked like the Steelers were going to get the win. So those are my 3. You've got to stop Henry and make it a Jackson game. You've got to have a huge outing from Pickens. And I think you can't let Marlon Humphrey make a huge play on defense.
For that matter, Kyle Hamilton. He's been very good all over the place. We got to go to a break. We'll take it, come back with more right here on the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call.